With me in studio, a close Odinga ally in the aftermath of the referendum in 2005, one of the architects of the ODM party, Ahmed. Lovely having you here. And on a consequential day in Kenya's political calendar, David Osiani is a former Chief Administrative Secretary, served in the Kenyatta government between 2018 and 2022. So lovely having you here, much appreciated. Given what has happened today. First to you, Ahmed, what is the fitting vocabulary to describe the man?
I think if we didn't have him, we would have to invent him. I think that what is indicative today of all the discourse that we have seen about the demise or the death or the passing away of the Prime Minister is not a signature about the death of the Prime Minister himself, but an angst about the country and where we are going and where we came from. If we are going to mourn, and we should mourn our Prime Minister, and a leader who has brought singularly, in many ways, some of the most profound changes we have in this country, it says something about us. It says that we have lack of institutions and we rely on individuals more than we rely on our institutions. It is proper and fair for the country to mourn a person who has spent years upon years in jail, who stood up at the darkest moments in this country's history. You know, during the dictatorships that we had here, they were probably equal in brutality and in fear with the colonial system that we had in this country. It just had black faces, but the whites had gone, and the process and the teeth and the pain and the heartlessness of the system was just taken over by another group of people. And I think that it is very fortunate that we had him as a leader in this country. And he towered highly. He towered more than most of the leaders we had in this country. And I also think that it's a bit of a, I think it's a bit of a topsy-turvy thing to mourn him in this way. And then while he was alive, we never let him become president in this country. And I think that's important for us to say.
Okay, David.
Let us spell the word patriotism. The letters that spell the word patriotism are R-A-I-L-A. And if you ever sought for the synonym of patriotism in Kenya, it would be Raila Odinga. You point to me which of the pivotal moments of our political history does not have the fingerprint and the mark of Raila Odinga except independence. I will name all of them, and each one of them has Raila Odinga behind it, whether it is the clamor for the expansion for our civic and democratic spaces in the 90s, it has Raila Odinga. Whether it is the movement from single-party rule into the multi-party democracy that we enjoyed, it has Raila Odinga's name on it. Whether it is the ousting of the 24-year rule of President Moi, it has Raila Odinga's name on it. Whether it is the new Constitution 2010 that started with the movement in 2005, you know, on the referendum, it has Raila Odinga's name on it. Yea, even as recent as last year, when we were literally on the brink of precipice as a nation at the Gen Z revolt, he looked beyond the moment and said, I shall step in and salvage the nation. People may have different views and opinions, but here is a man who was way too magnanimous, stepping behind from time to time. And when you speak about patriotism, I know only Raila Odinga as the man who constantly referenced the national anthem, constantly spoke about the words of the national anthem, attempted every day to live by those words. I do not know any other politician, alive or buried, who cherished the country so much as to sacrificially step back oftentimes, even when victory was his, and even when he had the right to stand up and say, we shall ban the nation. I sometimes look at the politicians who are currently, you know, clamoring towards 2027, and I ask, can any of these men, if they lost an election like Raila did, if their victory was robbed like Raila's was, is any of these men able to step back and say, the country is larger than the desire of my opponent who has stolen my victory? Raila Amolo.
I don't think that this is the time for us to talk about what's obvious.
Which is?
Which is what my friend on the right is speaking about. I think this is a time for us to rally around this country. I think
which is what I'm doing, Ahmed. Which is what I'm doing, because unless we understand and let the country know, Raila in his perspective, there are very many people, Ahmed, who do not understand that Raila, as a son of a vice president, of a former vice president, was 8 years in jail, clamoring for multi-party democracy.
While the father was alive.
While the father was alive. How many people, he wasn't vice president, he was a former vice president. How many people, Ahmed, do you know, vice presidents who have served, whether it's Mudia Warwick, Alonzo Musyoka, PCS, who do you know whose son would be in jail and yet their father or even themselves could just go and negotiate? Who do you know who, out of principle, leaves the party started by his own father, Ford Kenya, and says, I do not agree with you anymore. This is a party my father started. I feel we have divergence of opinion, and so I will resign, principle. Go and start and run on another party, principle. Seek a fresh mandate. You have too many people, disenfranchised, unhappy today, but because they lack principle, they are unable to go and seek fresh mandate and say, no, I used to believe in party A. It no longer represents my vision, and so I'll seek a mandate on party. So that's the man we are mourning.
I worked with him, so I know all that. But
so
my point is that I think the proper thing for us to do is to find a common ground in the country today, and the history of the Prime Minister will come out, and the debates will continue for a very long time. But I think the appropriate thing today is not just to historicize him or to contextualize him, and it's just to feel empathy with the people of this country.
You will not dictate how we mourn.
Let me finish.
How I mourn? No, you will not dictate.
So you
mourn as you will.
Can I finish what I say?
We both worked with him.
It's not a
debate.
Will
not dictate how I mourn.
It's not a debate. Let me just say what I have to say, and then you can say. It's my view, he has his view. Let each view come out. So I think, for me, I think that the country is in mourning. And it's bitter. You can feel it. Everybody's feeling bitter. I was very close to him, and I've been feeling sad the whole day. It's like you've lost someone in your family. But I don't think there's a debate about him right now. Right? All the political class you saw today was at the State House. People, the most important thing that people want to do is to get a dignified send-off for the Prime Minister. And we will have enough time to talk about the issues that at the center of our country's political economy. And he's there, right in the middle. One of the somber things that I remember, you know, is, this man has a human side that not a lot of people have seen. But I was privy to it for a long time. And one of the things is, I remember one day in a meeting of the National Executive, I think, and he kept on putting a handkerchief in his eyes. So I didn't, he kept on doing this. So I didn't understand why he was doing that. So I went and got a handkerchief, pair of clean from my car, and I came and I gave it to him in the middle of everybody. And I said, use that. Later on, I asked him, why are you doing that? You know, he said, you know, there was no sunlight in prison. They were not giving me enough sunlight, so the ducts in my eyes just exploded and they could not be fixed. So every time, the tears would just come down. So there's a lot of suffering that he went through, and it's very poignant. But I think that to dignify the man today is that every Kenyan knows the template of the divisions that we have and which side he represented. I stood with him. So did many people. But I think that people have to read the room. They have to understand the mood of the country. And the mood of the country today is that we want a peaceful, dignified, honorable send-off by our republic. And I also believe we have to rally around our president.
That's
I am one of the strongest critics of the president, as you know. But I think this is not a time to criticize anything or anyone or anything about the Prime Minister. And I just want to finish with that we are all adults, and it is our job to tell the people of this country things in a way in which that they become somber and not angry. Because if we dredge up the history of this man, it is full of anger, and it is full of victory, it is full of defeats. And I think that we have to be grown up about it, and we have to rally around the president today, because he's the leader of this country now, and give this man who has suffered for this country for so long a decent send-off, and then we can start tomorrow or day after the mourning period. My learned friend on the right can come and say the things that he wants to say.
That's true.
That's my view.
I like how Ahmed, when he says about the handkerchief, that does not historicize Raila. When I say he spent 8 years, that historicizes him. But I agree with you. And as I express my grief, Ahmed, I need you to be very clear. I am the greatest supporters of the president in the way he has handled the old man in his last days as a dignified leader. And as I talk about him, it is to help understand the magnitude of the loss this country has suffered. Raila Odinga, as a family man, for example, has been one of the people, he would walk into podiums and every time say, I'm husband of one wife, and people would laugh. But whereas they would laugh, beneath that statement lay a very clear commitment to the unit of family. And Raila was a huge proponent for, gender equity. If you want to see the evidence of the work of Raila Odinga beyond just the appointments he would make, then look at the mentorship he has offered in the parts of Nyanza where he leads. Go to Homa Bay County, for example, where 4 ladies are elected, and not as women reps, today, including as a governor.
Lillian Gogo.
Yes, Dr. Ivo Barra, Gladys, and Millie Odhiambo. In one county, go to Kisumu, where Rosa Buyu is a sitting member of parliament as a lady. It means this is a person who really cherished the gender equity, and he spoke about it. And beyond that, Raila Odinga is the man who, when he got to the table to negotiate, negotiated for the nation, not for tribe. I say this, look at the recent reorganizations and reappointments, whereas one would argue the Mount Kenya had their place at the table already. When he had a chance, he said, hey, my sister Karugo, come and serve as a principal secretary. And some of us had to sacrifice ambitions at the time for later. That's the man we mourn. And the loss of Raila Odinga is such a profound loss. It would be lost on people, for example, who use the southern and northern bypasses. That as Minister of Roads, Raila had to take personal responsibility. In Kisumu, at that time, when he was doing the roads, he had to bring down his brother's house. For him to demonstrate, because he was having issues here, they were saying, hapana, Jaruo amekuja kuvunja vitu vyetu, and now those roads benefit all of us. Raila Odinga was a great statesman, and his loss today is a profound loss for the entire nation. I mourn with the country, I mourn with the continent, with the family. I feel for them. I am sad that we are here, but I know that in his loss, the lessons he leaves behind are too rich, and so they will immortalize him. Impact immortalizes him.
Ahmed, I know you want to come in. President Benjamin Mkapa, the late Tanzanian president, who was amongst the leaders who had mediated the post-election crisis in 2007, in his book mentions that it was until they had to get Odinga and Kibaki together that the talks had progressed, and specifically points out that other politicians, naming out categorical, the President William Ruto was then the Eldoret North MP, and Mother Karua, who was then the Gishugu Member of Parliament, who are placing childish obstacles on the pathway of peace. How will we get such consequential?
I think it's a legitimate question. I was there throughout all these negotiations. I was there from the very beginning until the very end. So I think that I'll leave that debate to my younger fellow here on the right. My
was
job,
not in the room.
My job.
I wasn't in the room. Please tell us you were in the room.
My job.
How consequential were those things?
I was in the room from day one. Yeah. So I think the important thing, as part of journalism and broadcast media is concerned, in an event like this, what is important is the dignity of this country, the dignity of his role in creating this country and making it reach a certain level politically. And I think that it's very important today, as you saw the political leadership in this country, go to State House and talk about the dignified way in which we are supposed to handle the Prime Minister. I think that the debates about him and what happened and how it happened and why it happened, I was just speaking today to Dr. Mohammed Ishaqia, who is our Chief of Staff at the Pentagon. The one thing that we all remember, and very poignant, he remembers and I remember, and many of the people who were there remember, was that he was a very simple human being.
True.
And he also had very simple tastes. And he was just a very common person who was driven by a tremendous amount of passion about this country and where it should go. And I think that the president today showed that, and I want to congratulate President. I cannot believe that it's going to come out of my mouth, but I want to congratulate the president and our commander-in-chief for the dignified and very respectful and very emotional way in which he has stood and discharged his duty as a president to our prime minister. And I think that this is maybe a new page, because we're at an end of an era. Well, there's one era that is gone, and there's a new era that is coming. And this new era that's becoming will bring forth many of the things that Mr. Odinga had put on the table for us as a nation. Lastly, I just want to say, and I want to appeal to the national consciousness of our people, to the national sentiments of our country, that all of us become very united in making sure that there is a dignified way in which, and the president has shown us the way, that the prime minister goes to his burial place, and we all then have to sit back and reflect on not only his life, but the life of the Republic while he was in the politics of this country, and while most of us gave our lives to his vision, because we shared that vision. I was in the room when I saw this country come to the edge. I was in the room, and I saw him bring it back. And it will come in a book. Dr. Musaki is also writing a book. I'm also writing a book. And we are witnesses to the history of this country. And it would be very wrong for the people who are in there not to write about their experiences and their feelings.
With him. No, that's true. I mean, as he alludes to the simplicity, Raila was the man who was in a house in Kibera and would get along with the people, the common person on the ground, but also sit on the king's table. Yeah. And so he knew how to balance the two worlds with great poise and presence and calmness, and he would fit in. He didn't struggle to fit in. One time we were in a rally across the country, then he saw boiled maize, and I remember him asking on the loudspeaker, he forgot that the microphone was on. He said, Maurice, in Enobando, have you seen the maize, that boiled maize? To someone to get it. He was a very simple man. But I also just want to thank God that this great man has rested peacefully. For a man who dangled and flirted with death and was in opposition most of his life, taking on regimes, going on the street, survived Moi, took on Kibaki, survived that, took on Uhuru, made friends, fought with President Ruto, became friends. And through these times, being really on the edge, for a man like that to have gotten to the 80 years and to leave the scene honorably and peacefully is a great thing. We look forward to the president uniting the nation, as he has ably done at this time. I know emotions may run high. I saw them earlier in the day. And while it is right for emotions to run as far high as they could, they have to be tamed so that we bury Raila Odinga. Many people were surprised. Why is Raila Odinga saying, why is he going to be buried in such a short while? You know, in the Luo culture, Raila is what we call Ruoth. Ruoth is a king. And so in the old culture, Ruothi would take time. People would bring cows and grains, and people would mourn for days. But Raila, at the height of COVID, kept saying, I would love to change the culture among the Luo people, where so much money is spent towards the burial, and then after the funeral, people are left poor. And he expressed, when he dies, he wants to be buried in 72 hours, not once or twice, where I personally was. And so I think that also becomes quite something.
Yeah, okay. So Monica, we are still keeping an eye on the flight that is ferrying the delegation led by the Prime Cabinet Secretary. This is one of the most tracked. Abel, is it the most? Yeah, according to my team, this is the second most tracked flight, KQA 202, that is now flying over the Arabian Sea. Of course, it's a busy flight path, as you can see, before it lands in Mumbai. And to just give you some specifics about Mumbai, it's now 1:20, meaning that they are ahead by 2 hours and 30 minutes. So for them, it's Thursday already, 29 degrees Celsius before it touches down, and the busy flight pathway that the KQ Boeing A202 will be flying across the over the Arabian Sea before it lands in Mumbai, and will be escorting back the body of the former Prime Minister. So this is the 3D version of the flight itself, which is flying over the Arabian Sea, that will be putting up shortly on your screens for the detailed attention that we have accorded this flight that has taken off from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. My team will be getting shortly to that. Monica, Abel and team who are working on that. Ahmed, yes.
I think to contemplate the useful thing, to contemplate the courageous thing, to contemplate to do something important is enough for a man's life. That's a guy called T.S. Eliot. It's very important for us to humanize the leader who has just passed on. Because if we don't humanize him, then he doesn't make any sense to the country. And if we put him in a place, even though we know that he was a titan in this country, we know that he's done all those sacrifices, we know the amount of time and space that he has used to help this country get to where it should be going. I think it is more useful for us to humanize him and his struggle within this country. And one of the things about his humanity is, I remember one specific and very poignant thing was, he brought the buibui into bunge. You know, he has a way of saying, it was a very funny way of saying it, said, mimi nileta buibui kwa bunge. And it wasn't really about the buibui. It was about representation in this country. You know, in some areas in this country, there was no representation. There was no money going in. And I think that one of the things that we can remember him about, first and foremost, is that this constitution that we have. This constitution that we have is a product of struggles of groups, of social formations, of citizens and countries. But at the end of the day, there's someone who comes to symbolize it. You know, all these people, President Obama became president, but Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Douglas Hart, all the men and women of the African American community and other Americans who fought for civil rights and finally had someone from an African American ancestry to become a president of a country is people standing on shoulders of other people. And of course now the Prime Minister has come to symbolize those actors. And I think it is very important, and he himself said so while he was alive, is to humanize him is to give him even more credit. But to make him something that he is not is to take away from him what he was. And I think it is very important that all of us in this country, at these 7 days that we have, remember the memory and the dignity of Mr. Odinga in a way that makes our country much more, able to deal with its history. I think that many of the people who are his age have now gone, the people who are struggling to get change in this country. And it is now the next generation that has to pick up the baton of the political party, pick up the baton of defending the Constitution, pick up the baton of trying to make our union in this country a better union. You know, the divisions that we have are so huge that I think it is a testament that we are still a country right next door in Somalia. One people, one nation, one language. And the white man left this country. He was asked, who do you think is going to survive? And he said, the Somali Republic is the one that's going to stand. And today it is at the doldrums of these divisions, because it never had a statesman who would soothe the angst and the divisions and the hurt of the people. There were only politicians who would divide them. And one of the things I can say about Mr. Odinga, the Prime Minister, is that he was a unifier. He was a unifier. I broke with him on the last part when he joined the broad-based government because I couldn't see why he wanted to join the broad-based government. And maybe tonight I have a better understanding of it because Mr. Odinga saw something and he leapt to it and said, no, if we leave it like this, something's going to go wrong. I might disagree with him. Yep. I might feel a different way, which is very normal. But at the end of the day, he was the leader. And today, there is no leader. He's gone. And there are many, 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 many men and women who want to take up that role. So I think that before we talk about those issues, Ayub, I put it to you, is that this republic can feel healed, can feel mourned, after we take our time and pay the due respects to our Prime Minister. And after that, we can open the book on what he was not. And I think even in our own culture, we say, so which translates into saying that a man who is already dead, the only things you can talk about are the good things that he did. And I think that's very important.
No, I actually love that Raila's harshest critic in his last days has gotten a moment of, oh yeah, maybe he was right. And he truly was right. One of the, and I have a cousin called Dan Kanokelo who, when we were burying Phoebe Asio, Raila Odinga made such a heavy, deep speech. And I remember at the time, my cousin saying, and I dismissing him quickly, he said, this looks like a goodbye speech. Because in that speech, he spoke about why he decided to jump in and support President Ruto when the country was going to go down, giving examples of countries that had taken that route and never recovered from that route, stating that, yes, the problems therein, the problems that we were speaking about were legitimate, but the solution to those problems were not the ones that were, it wasn't to be solved in the manner that would bring us down to a halt. In that speech, Raila Odinga spoke to the president and said, we have veered off from Vision 2030. Mr. President, if our union is going to bear fruit, let's retrace our steps to the Vision 2030. He asked the president, let us recreate the NESC, the National Economic and Social Council, that was steering the economic issues of this country, led and chaired at the presidency. He was very categorical, and it was very punchy. He spoke both in Luo and in English. But away from that, Raila Odinga was a hugely magnanimous man, very forgiving. He never had vendetta. I can dare say on this show, Raila is probably one of the most defamed and against whom people stated some of the most libelous things in this country. I have never seen a single case where Raila filed for defamation. He would just let it slide. He knew it was politics. He knew things would change. He knew quickly, it doesn't matter what you say today, tomorrow is very different, and the time span that we have on the political scene is very short. Raila was very, very magnanimous. One time, when I was with him in the UK, my good friend Silas Jakakimba had just attempted to run for Senate after Otieno Kajwang died.
Yeah.
And so Jakakimba moved away to a Farmers' Party of Kenya. Jakakimba had been his aide.
Yeah.
When my friend Jakakimba moved away, he ran, and when he didn't succeed, Raila took him back in. Now, when we met in the UK, the ODM supporters in London wanted to lynch Jakakimba. And Raila asked them, where do you want Silas to go? He literally asked them in Luo Chameru, which I cannot translate in English. He was that protective, and yet others saw this as a traitor because he looked beyond the simple things. Raila always looked back. How far have we come? He put men and women on the weighing scale, on a fair weighing scale. And if the good in you outdid the bad, then you were a good person. He forgave it and moved on and urged other people to move on. His contribution to this country is enormous. He cannot be forgotten. And I really hope that as we drive along the southern bypass, that the president would reconsider to name that bypass Raila Odinga bypass as a great contributor to that. You know, people don't even know things, the improvement of GDC that later would give the prominence that GDC has in our energy infrastructure today are things attributable to this great man. And so, yes, we are here to mourn him. We lay to rest a great man who impacted on people very, you know, at a very personal level. I was there, not once or twice, in Kibera, as Raila sent truckloads of food from time to time. When you go to that community, Ayub, those people have lost, and one would say it was to just let people come for more. But he did it as duty. He knew our hands are not different. Some will make money today, some will not make it tomorrow, but all of us need to eat. So, and he never spoke about it. He never, ever spoke about it. So that's the man we've lost.
Yeah.
Very great.
Yeah,
very
Ahmed,
huge.
before I come to you, this is also to update you on Kenya's consequential political day in its calendar, still also keeping an eye. Monica, this is where we are? Yes, this is the KQ flight that is ferrying the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, and the team that he is leading to Mumbai. It's the 3D vision. It seems not moving, but I believe we get back to the track so that we can see the altitude and the thousands of feet that this plane is. 5,599 people are tracking this flight live, and it's some 1 hour and 43 minutes, which is some 1,000. So number one worldwide tracked flight at the moment following the demise of the former Prime Minister. Now flying over the Arabian Sea, you can see the flight, the traffic of flight along that is over the Arabian Sea. And in 1.5 hours thereabout, it should be landing at Mumbai Airport. It's about 1,208 kilometers to the destination. That's according to Flight Radar 24. 5,000, the number seems to be climbing up 717 aboard this flight. And the pictures you are seeing, the passengers who are aboard, Nairobi County Governor Johnson Sakaja, the Energy CS Opiyo Wandayi, amongst other long list of leaders who had taken off from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And it should be landing, estimated time is 3:15 a.m. local time in India. Then it should be back by tomorrow, Thursday, where a long day awaits the Kenyan public, which will be, of course, the public viewing that will begin from 12 p.m. in Parliament. Then later the day, the body of the former Prime Minister will be returned to the Lee Funeral Home. And 8 a.m. on Friday at the Nyayo National Stadium will be the state funeral service that will be attended by dignitaries from outside Kenya to grant the former Prime Minister a fitting send-off. Then the body will spend the night on Friday at his current home here in Nairobi before it will be taken to Kisumu on Saturday for public viewing at Moi Stadium between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And thereafter, the body of the former Prime Minister will be taken by road to Bondo in Siaya County, and on Sunday, where it will spend the night on Saturday, then on Sunday he will be buried as per the traditions of the Anglican Church that he is subscribed to. See, this is the Boeing KQ flight that we are tracking here on Citizen Television that is also ferrying our team who are aboard, Stephen Leto and our videographer Felix Orare, and we'll be giving you the minute-by-minute update before and after it touches down in Mumbai and escort back the body of the former Prime Minister, the son of the soil, back to Kenya for his burial rites. Yes, Ahmed.
I think that all eyes will be watching that. I think the more important thing is when when the plane comes in and President and the government receives him, and the spiritual, political, economic, social, and cultural leaders of this country, led by our president. And I think that there's an incomprehensive word in the English language called catharsis. Catharsis is a way in which we can make the nation cathartic, which makes a transformation from one era to a new era. And I think that the old order and the old era, which was the symbol was the Prime Minister, and the coming future in which we are going to have to reckon with the issues that the Prime Minister and many other men and women in this country have raised. I think that is the more meaningful thing for us to talk about in the coming days. But for today, as Ayub, we've been up from 3 o'clock in the morning. That's nearly 24 hours. Yeah. And, at least we have to give the analysis of the situation in this country when your mind is clear. So I think for tonight, what we can tell the country, who have also not slept, is that what we need to do is not, there's this old word that says patriotism is the last refuge of a scoundrel. People tend to hide in patriotism when there are other things going on. And what we need to do is to follow the lead of our president, who gave us a really amazing speech. And I thought that for the first time, in my view, I saw the president being presidential, stepping up and upping his game. And I think that if we do that the next few days, the next few weeks, the next few months, and recall the memory of the Prime Minister and the tough times that he went through and the good times, because there's a lot of good times, not only bad times. And I think that that will help in reconstructing the image of our country from this very divisive, really divisive politics that we have in this country. And it might help bring us again together, and that will be the good for the country, and I think it will help us move on to the next stage.
Yeah, and before I come to you, David, here is a story prepared by my colleague Safin Achieng Oma, and this is on Raila Odinga, who she had described will be forever immortalized in history books as a prolific leader whose style of politics traversed political generations. Despite being celebrated as a fierce pro-democracy campaigner and liberal democrat, a champion of reforms and a fountain of a political career of many leaders, Raila never achieved his goal of becoming Kenya's president, making valiant efforts 5 times in contesting for the presidency. Safin Achieng Oma now looks back at Raila Odinga's 5 missed stabs at the presidency.
15th of August 2022, at the Bomas of Kenya in Nairobi, the then IEBC chairperson, the late Wafula Chebukati, announced the winner of a fiercely contested presidential election.
Ruto William Samoei.
William Samoei Ruto, then serving as deputy president, was declared winner after garnering 7.1 million votes against Raila Odinga's 6.9 million votes. The declaration of Ruto as the 5th president confirmed Raila Odinga's 5th loss in trying to clinch the State House job. The turn of events sending shockwaves among Raila Odinga's political camp. The National Tallying Centre erupted in chaos, with Raila Odinga's supporters insisting he had won the election. This was the 5th unsuccessful time Raila Odinga was running for presidency. Each time he alleged electoral fraud. His first attempt was in 1997 when he contested as the National Development Party's candidate. Raila finished 3rd in this election. The late Mwai Kibaki of the Democratic Party was 2nd, and the incumbent Daniel Arap Moi of KANU won the election. In 2002, Raila skipped the presidential race to support Mwai Kibaki. But he was back on the ballot in 2007 as a candidate for the Orange Democratic Movement. Raila lost to Kibaki in a highly contested election that marked one of the darkest moments in Kenya's political history. Allegations of vote rigging led to deadly demonstrations. More than 1,100 people died, and about 350,000 were forced to flee their homes in the ensuing post-election violence. And to end the violence, former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan brokered a power-sharing arrangement which led to the creation of a grand coalition government with Raila appointed as Prime Minister. Raila was back on the ballot for a 3rd time in 2013. Convinced that he would win the election, he put up a high-spirited campaign against Uhuru Kenyatta of the National Alliance. Uhuru Kenyatta and his running mate William Ruto won the election with 50.51% of the total votes against Raila Odinga's 43.7%. Raila unsuccessfully contested the results at the Supreme Court, which upheld Kenyatta's election. In 2017, the 4th time Raila was running for office, a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court changed the political history of the country.
Be able to demonstrate why we reached our conclusion.
With 44.9% of the vote, Raila had lost against Uhuru Kenyatta, who was re-elected with 54.1% of the vote. Raila contested the results at the Supreme Court. The results of the presidential election were subsequently annulled and fresh presidential election ordered within 60 days. Raila boycotted the repeat election held on 26th of October 2017, enabling Uhuru Kenyatta's victory with an overwhelming 98.3% of the vote. The Orange Democratic Movement's flag bearer and his supporters organized a ceremony to swear him in as the people's president. Miguna, who administered the oath, was deported, while Raila went on to enter a truce with his one-time political rival Uhuru Kenyatta. Raila would again claim victory in the 2022 presidential election, where President William Ruto was declared winner.
The figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void and must be quashed by a court of law.
This 5th loss was to be the last in his highly decorated political career. Safin Achieng Oma, Citizen TV.
And the sports fraternity in the country has today united in grief following the demise of the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Beyond politics, Odinga will be remembered for his enduring passion for football, serving as Gor Mahia patron until his demise. To add, he was also an Arsenal fan. Our sports reporter Lukman Mahmood looks back at moments Raila Odinga had fun moments about football.
The patron will attract many readers. From the Mashimeji Derby matches pitting Kogalo against Ingwe, which he always attending to support Gor, his goal was to promote the game that he loves. Poignantly, in his final Facebook post on October 3rd before departing for India for his treatment, Raila shared a joyful moment with Gor Mahia officials, gifting them shilling 10 million.
And quite often he invites us and makes some unexpected presentation, like last week, but one on the evening of 2nd of this month. I just got a call from him asking me to go to his home in the morning of Friday 3rd, and I was surprised at a donation to the club of 10 million shillings in cash.
Raila also showed his affection towards English Premier League side Arsenal, and he occasionally catch their matches live and sometimes move to social media to congratulate them when they post positive results.
He is a big sycophant of sports, football sports. I don't want to mention the clubs that he supports because that might cause a lot of different opinions, but even foreign clubs. He told me 2 weeks ago that he actually played in the Bundesliga, in the second lower league in Germany, and that was something that I'd never known before. His follow-up, he gave me a very interesting narrative of the evolution of football, particularly in East Africa from 1926.
Football Kenya Federation, through its president Hussein Mohamed, has also mourned Raila as a light who helped promote the sports in the country. Raila attended all Harambee Stars matches in the Chantani, which Kenya co-hosted with Uganda and Tanzania. He was also captured bidding goodbye to striker Rayon Ogam, who was signed by Wolfsburg in Austria after a great performance in Chan.
The country has lost an ardent supporter of sports, especially football, and I remember working closely with him in 2010 when I was the chair of the Harambee Stars Management Board, and he had shown his commitment not only as a leader in mainstream politics, but also in support of sports and particularly football.
Kenyans from various parts have also praised Raila for his contribution to improving other sports.
Yeah, we have to because we are representing Kenya in the Champions League, so we have to represent Kenya in all the aspects, including if we win, we'll be dedicating it to our former Prime Minister.
Kifo chake Raila si pigo tu kwa wanasiasa na pia pigo kwa wanamichezo. Ukiangalia mtu kama Raila, alikuwa jamaa ambaye alikuwa so much passionate kwa sports, more so football. Ukiangalia during his young age, wakati alikuwa mbunge, alichezea bunge FC, wakati alikuwa mbunge wa Lang'ata.
Gor Mahia has lost a patron, but Kenya has lost a leader who loved to see the game make a progress. Lukman Mahmood, Citizen TV.
That was the other side of the former Prime Minister, who also cherished sports, an ardent, staunch supporter of Kogalo and also Arsenal, domiciled in North London. David, certainly a man meant for many seasons, engineered to survive the terrain, and who had embodied all the qualities Kenya needed to free itself from the yoke of dictatorship.
It's true. I mean, Raila had this organic, authentic, and majoritarian, stature or leadership. How else do you explain a man who builds a party and for 20 years, most of which he is not in government, the party, which is in opposition survives. Parties come and go. They all die. We had TNA, which was huge.
PNU.
URP, all of them rose and died. And it just shows you how great a leader he was to have built that machinery, put in place systems. The only party that has, its grassroots elections, sometimes marred with the obvious faults and inadequacies of humanness, but the one party that has grown so big. In fact, we were celebrating 20 years as a party in ODM. And Raila was a big believer in generational mix. You see, as young leaders grow to take, the desire to take over and oust the older leaders, that fire burns in them. Raila was a great believer in generational mix. Whenever you sat with him, he would say, the older people are the brakes and the younger people are the accelerator. Any car needs both to function. So he groomed those of us who are young, but he also reminded us, hey, just go slow, give things time. Naturally, you will get to occupy your space and grow. Look at people like Honorable Mbadi. Honorable Mbadi became a member of parliament, started as a deputy minister, as an assistant minister in office of the prime minister. People don't even understand that. It would take so much time, even though he was the chairman.
Omondi, the chief of staff.
Karoli Omondi. And all these people who have grown under him have just progressed slowly. Gladys Wanga, who has done tremendously well. All these people, Joho was a creation of Raila Odinga. Raila delivered Joho to Mombasa. It was not the other way around. And throughout, you would see he had a keen hand, but even as he had them, and even as he has taken some of us who are younger under his wings, Sifuna, Babu, myself, Eddie Okech, all the younger ones, as he's kept them, he has ensured that they firmly have to respect the older ones like Wycliffe Oparanya. Give them their space, because he knows naturally they'll have to exit at some point. So don't be in too much of a hurry. It could get burnt, but and he also never extremely also tamed ambition, So we have lost a very great leader, a very authentic, a person who rallied the nation behind him. If Raila Odinga were to decide to shut down the country at any given time, he would, because he would choke Mombasa, choke Kakamega, choke Nyanza, close Nairobi, and sections of Northeastern. It's done. If he says there will be no movement, tell me which leader can do that. And yet, he did not use this strength for the detriment of the nation. He used his strength for the progress of our nation. What a patriotic man. What a man.
And that magnanimity is what in many cases is absent in our political leadership, is it?
And extremely.
Yeah, and this marks more or less, David, I'm sure you agree with me, the beginning of a new era. I mean, Odinga has done his part, getting us over multipartism, and not anyone would do that. People lost their lives, exiled away from his family, in solitary confinement, lifelong scars on his life. And you could see what he delivered, Katiba. Ideally, he lived a life well-deserved, is it? How then will the new Kenya, the new era without Raila Odinga, when we will lay him to rest, espouse, and how will his footprints be the reality of that new era?
I said impact immortalizes a man. And impact, I would really hope that as many of us as possible, we can learn from him and be consistent. Listen to me, Ayub. Raila was such a consistent man, even when his own chances of getting what he wanted were on the chopping board. Let's take a trip back to Mau, when Raila broke ranks at the time with the URP section and said, no, We are not going to go down into Mau, cutting down trees, doing logging there, settling humanity there, because that is the water tower that sustains the entire of the western part of the country. We cannot afford to do it, and even parts of the central of the country, from Nakuru all the way to Busia, Migori, the water tower that supplies all that area is from Mao. He took a very unpopular decision, but he stayed with it. Did he not know that it would be costly for him? He knew.
And he said, so be it.
Then he said, but what is right? Do I want to be expeditious? Do I want to do this for the sake of self-preservation? Or am I doing this for my granddaughter, who will one day look back in an arid country and say, but Grandpa, what did you do? Most recently, Raila has taken on the most sensitive topic, CDF, and has said without equivocation, prevarication, or circumlocution that we had CDF before the new constitution. We, in the new constitution, had envisaged that there would be need for devolution of resources. And therefore, because the county as units have resources, why don't we then move these resources to be managed by the county? Very, very sensitive. And I'm telling you, no MP could take it lying down. And yet he also knew majority, I dare say almost 80% of the constituencies do not manage their CDF prudently. Yes, there are 20% of parliamentarians who have done a tremendously good job. But he said, this is going to be costly. And I could see how his foot soldiers, you know, even my brother Junet was managing it politically, saying, hapa sasa baba yangu ameongea, sasa sijui itakuwaje, because he did not care. He just wanted to do what is right. It is hard to attempt to fathom this nation post Raila Odinga's interment. But as a believer, I know God has gone ahead. Yeah. But as a human, I also know there have been lessons learned and passed on to seeds of Raila Odinga across the nation. Now, the question is, will they learn from a man who was consistent, who was patriotic enough, who was sacrificial enough, and who was magnanimous to this extent? The jury is out there.
David, thank you. Of course, talking about Raila will take us more time, certainly. His book, The Flame of Freedom, by the title itself, so voluminous, and it captures this history.
Very rich.
Socialist by thinking, yes. Fought for equity, saw people as equal, and believed in the rule of law and the Constitution. We'll talk more about him. So let's be part of the team that is keeping an eye on that flight that is now across the Arabian Sea. And my team, Monica and Abel, are working on this. So this is hashtag, it's trending, by the way, it's #1.
Yeah.
So 4,942 people are tracking KQ flight A202, which is now flying over the Arabian Sea, and you can see the traffic of flights over there, given, of course, how an economic hub this is, because it's sandwiched in between parts of Asia and the Middle East. KQ A202, and which is flying at the moment at 33,000 feet. And flight registration number 5YCYD and serial number 40553, which is carrying the Kenyan delegation. It's now 1 hour and 18 minutes before it touches down at 3:15 a.m. local time in Mumbai in India, and this is the 3D version of the flight. So this was what we made for you, of course, so that you could see how this was efficient in turning everything around, tailoring it to suit, of course, our coverage, so that we could as well keep track of every detail regarding what's been happening since this had taken off from the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. It's trending #1. It's #1 tracked. Now, 5,020 people are tracking this flight 787 Dreamliner, which has 2 compartments and one of the most fuel-efficient jets that Boeing has produced. And the estimated time that it will be landing in Mumbai from Nairobi will be 3:15 a.m. and that is in about 1 hour and 17 minutes. It had taken off 4 hours and 31 minutes ago and has covered so far 3,716 kilometers, so 3/4 of the journey done by this flight. And you could see that up from 37,000 feet, it's now 33, which clearly indicates that soon it will be on the descendancy. Amongst the leadership that, of course, is aboard is the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, who is leading the Kenyan delegation. And here are some of the pictures before we come back and bid you goodbye. And these are the live pictures that earlier on we had of Winnie Odinga, who is paying her respects to her father, a man, of course, considered by many in Kenya also as their father, though not biological. This is Winnie Odinga, who was part of the family team that was with Odinga as he underwent medical attention in India before his demise, and the communication that was issued thereafter. His body will be ferried back home, and that is as per the communication given by the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the Kenyan team will be escorting the body of the former Prime Minister. Winnie Odinga here, Raila Odinga's daughter, of course his biological daughter, but Odinga has been father to many, including those he politically mentored and also those who had seen him as the man who had advocated for them, a champion of justice, a social advocate, the patriot, the nationalist, the Pan-Africanist, the bold, the dexterous, and also the human, who embodied all the qualities that Kenya had needed so much in freeing itself from the yoke of dictatorship. So the number keeps on increasing now, up by 300 people to 5,319 who are now tracking, 5,337 now. And you could see it's now KQ-202, which is flying onto the sea of, you can see the airspace around the Arabian Sea, and it should be landing. Abel, if we can zoom into Mumbai, this is the airport where it should be landing, and the movements there on of the flights. Yes, Abel, we can zoom in here. This is where it should be landing, yeah. Mumbai, yeah, if you can track, yes, KQ, yeah. And Mumbai, this is it. Yes, Abel here. Yeah, not Maharashtra, here, Mumbai. Yeah, I'm making here. Yes, there we go. You can zoom it out. This is Mumbai, where it should be landing, and Mumbai Chhatrapati Shivaji International Airport in India. And this is the flight that we have started tracking since it left Jomo Kenyatta International Airport at 6:55 p.m. Estimated it should be landing in 1 hour and 14 minutes. That is about 805 kilometers, flying at 33,000 feet. And all the details are provided, scheduled time, local time, and the flight will be back escorting the body of the former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, who will be laid to rest on Sunday this week in Siaya. David, many thanks. I know it's heavy given the impact you had on your life from university days till you have served in government. And
I do not know. I think that picture of
Winnie,
yeah, putting the
flowers,
the heart of Jacom, yeah, on the casket has felt so heavy. Death has such a profound sense of permanence. For some of us, Raila has been more than a father. I really am, that was my father. Forgive me, I'm sorry. You know, there isn't any private ceremony where I didn't have Ida, yeah, and Mzee, and yet I wasn't their birth son. Whether it was me courting and taking my wife Siombua to say, hey, Mzee, this is the girl I want to marry, and having his nod, whether it was a wedding, whether it was the birthday of our daughter, the Odingas were there, whether it is the, you know, the loss of my own father, where I remember had a very busy schedule, but that was Raila Odinga. Raila was so deeply loving and so caring. and he took care of his children. He knew all of us and our talents. He knew who was rabid, he knew who was gentle, he knew who was kind, he knew who was mean. He knew all his sons. And sometimes he protected these sons from the other. But deep down, Raila also really loved this country.
Yeah.
I have not seen a man who cherished this country so much. And when he made up his mind, he meant it. When he said he would stand with President William Ruto, he meant it, and he was willing to defend it. And before that decision was made, it was hard. He needed to know, why are we making this decision? But when he did it, he meant it and told those of us who are his foot soldiers, we are going left. And when it is left, it's left. When it is right, it's right. So I really thank the president for honoring this great enigma and the doyen of our generation. Indeed, the most consequential political leader of our generation. We will deeply miss him. We look forward to burying him, but we refuse to bury the footprints of his goodness.
Thank you, David. And once the body will be ferried back home, the public viewing will start tomorrow, 12 p.m., as per the communication issued by the chair of the committee that has been tasked with the preparation of laying to rest the former Prime Minister. 12 p.m. that is in Parliament, depending on, of course, the time that the flight will be touching down at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And thereafter, by close of the day, the body will be taken to the Lee Funeral Home. And on Friday at 8 a.m., the state funeral service will begin at the Nyayo National Stadium. That will be attended by dignitaries from across the continent and the world. And by end of day, the body will, for overnight stay, be taken to his current residence here in Nairobi County before it will be transferred to Kisumu County on Saturday for public viewing that will be starting from 9 a.m. and is set to end at 3 p.m. And it will be taken by road to Bondo in Siaya County, where it will, for overnight on Saturday, stay at his home. And on Sunday, he will be buried according to the traditions of the Anglican Church. That's the communication that was given by the Deputy President, who chairs that very critical committee, and the other team that is airborne, which is tasked to get back the body of the former Prime Minister back home. And this will be the plan, and our team will be on every bit of what will be happening tomorrow, starting this special coverage here in Nairobi. My colleague Sam Gituku is in Bondo, Siaya County, where the former Prime Minister will be laid to rest. Laura Otieno will be keeping an eye on the counties of Kisumu, Migori, and Homa Bay, as well as the other team in Nairobi, who will be working on every bit of the consequential event that has happened today in Kenya's political calendar. Certainly a man of many seasons, made for the political weather, and who made the political weather, around whose shoulders politics revolved, and who had espoused, embodied all the qualities Kenya needed to free itself from the yoke of dictatorship. And in many instances ending up in solitary confinements at the height of the one-party system, exiled from his family, but lived to see some of the realization of the fruits of what he fought for and stood for, which was Katiba 2010. A socialist by nature, by make, honorable social advocate, a patriot, peace ambassador, nationalist, Pan-Africanist, dexterous, bold, and around whose persona everything had revolved. The Copernican constant of Kenya's politics. May the soul of the former Prime Minister, Raila Amolo Odinga, Kisumu, Migori, and Bondo rest in eternal peace.
Before we close, can I sing Raila's favorite song?
Yes.
Because he loved the Jamaican farewell. Yeah. And when we would be in our private spaces, you say, David, you're the one with a nice voice. Yeah. Sing. Yeah. Down the way where the nights are gay and the sun shines daily on the mountain top, I took a trip on a sailing ship, but when I reached Jamaica, I made a stop, but I'm sad to say I'm on my way. Won't be back for many a days. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston town. Sad to say I'm on my way. Won't be back for many a days. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston town. Joey.
Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Well, in 1945 came Raila Amolo Odinga. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you for keeping us company here on Citizen Television, for your company, which is all cherished all day. And this special coverage continues tomorrow by the grace of God. Good night.
Thank you.